Is Santa just a harmless, fun Christmas tradition, or is he a distraction to the greater message of Christmas? In this video, I want to help you figure out more than just yes Santa, no Santa. I want to give you 5 questions for you to reflect on so you can start using the whole Christmas season to deepen and grow the faith journey that your children are on so they can grow closer to Jesus during this wonderful time of year. And in the process, I'll show you a few things we do around here to celebrate Christmas as well, hopefully giving you some fresh ideas as well. Hi everyone, BJ Muir here, and if we're meeting for the first time, I'm a Christian parenting coach who helps families move forward in how they work with their children using a heart-based approach to parenting so they can stop just looking at their kids' behavior and start parenting at the heart level to start seeing lasting change. This issue of what to do with Santa is often debated in Christian communities. There's those who grew up with Santa as part of their Christmas tradition, and they have very fond memories of Santa Claus. They remember going to the mall and getting pictures. They probably even still have some of those pictures. They remember unwrapping gifts and seeing Santa's name on them, or seeing Santa on the television and different movies about Santa Claus. They might even remember leaving out cookies and milk and maybe even some carrots for the reindeers, and then getting a letter back sometimes from Santa, or even having Santa visit their house or call them on the telephone. And they don't want to deny their children all the joy and fun. And they look back at it and say, that was a lot of fun. I want my children to have that fun too. And it's not really a big issue. For other parents, they look at Santa, and while they acknowledge he's a happy, jolly guy, he's the biggest thing in the room anytime he comes in. And he's a huge distraction to the bigger message of Jesus Christ at Christmas and the true meaning of Christmas, which is Jesus' birthday. They look at Santa and they say, he's the exact representation of everything we don't love about Christmas because he represents the over-commercialization of the holidays. And in fact, you have to, they say, lie to your kids in order to get them to believe this thing. And you end up making up all other kinds of lies to keep the story going. And then at some point, you reveal the truth to your child. And in some way, shape, or form, you're undermining your own relationship with your child. Usually folks who don't want to include Santa in Christmas will often have a story, either a personal story of someone they know, or a story they've heard of somebody whose parents told them Santa wasn't real at some point, and that caused that person to question everything that family ever said to them, and even question Jesus and walked away from their faith. When you put these two sides in a room, they often don't play very nice because they're so entrenched in their belief system about the role of Santa. And I want to move past these two sides that are warring with each other and instead ask these 5 questions of you so you can start reflecting on them. And as you reflect on those 5 questions, Santa's going to find his place based on how you answer those questions. And yes, by the end of this video, I'll be telling you a little bit about what we do around here with Santa and how we handle all these little issues as well. We don't have it all right, but I think we've unlocked a few Christmas secrets that might bring some peace to you as well. So when I think of Christmas, I think of cookies right away. And when I think of Santa, I think of chocolate chip cookies. So we're going to be pulling some cookies out of the cookie jar right here. And each cookie will be one of the questions. And as you see the cookie come up and hear me talk about that cookie, feel free to hit pause on the video and even write a few notes down or just think about it or turn to your spouse if you're married and talk about this at the same time and then hit play again and keep on going through all the 5 cookies. Here we go. Cookie number 1, core values. Here's the question for core values. What are the core values around your Christmas celebration that you want your children to experience? How do you want your children to remember Christmas? Take some time and just write down some words that come to mind when you think, man, I want Christmas to be about this. When I think about my own family's words that we would put in here, these core values, some of the words that came to my mind, I'm just going to read them right off my notebook here. Faith-filled. We see this time as a huge opportunity to just increase the amount of faith discussions and events and things that we do here. And we really want to take advantage of the increased interest in faith at this time of year. Family fun comes up. We want to have a lot of fun together. And that kind of leads to the next one where we call traditions. We are big on traditions. If we did it one year, it's stuck, or it's the new tradition here, all right? So traditions comes to mind. The word together was another word that I wrote down. And purposeful. We want to be very purposeful in what we do. There's a lot of ways to fill up your late November and December schedule and be just busy and hurried and going everywhere. And we try to look and be more purposeful about our schedule. So take some time right now, if you want to pause this right now and go ahead and get started, but write down your core values that you would like to pass on to your children. Cookie number 2, childhood traditions. I want you to think, what childhood traditions, experiences, Bible verses do you want to make sure to include in your Christmas celebrations? You likely have some of these already, but maybe you haven't called them out. Take some time to call those out. When I call them out for me, there's a whole lot of them that come forward. One of them is tree decorations. So in In both my wife's family and my family, we would get a new Christmas decoration. And so we would have a tree decoration, a new ornament every single year. And you can go back and it's almost like a timeline of your life in ornaments. So we carry that tradition on to make sure that our kids every single year, they open up a gift that has their ornament for the year on there. And we try to make it somewhat significant if you learn to ride your bike or you learn to drive a car, or it was your first sleepaway camp experience, or you went on a missions trip that was really important, something like that. We try to capture that in the ornament. Other times, it's just an ornament we think you'd love. But ornaments is a big one for us. Another one is there specific foods that we eat during this time of year that are traditional foods that both of us grew up with in our family, and they're just family recipes that we want to pass on to our children. One of them, cream puffs, is one. Homemade cream puffs is one in our family for sure. Luke 2, reading Luke 2 before you open up Christmas gifts. That's a tradition that was in my wife's family. We've carried it over to our family as well. We've played with it. We've done some different things. There's some great other new resources that still tell the story. Maybe it's not reciting Luke 2, but we've done Luke 2 as well. Christmas Eve service is another big one for our family. We actually go up to the church I grew up in North Jersey there and celebrate Christmas Eve there because that was an important part of my faith journey was Christmas Eve service. So we go up to Christmas Eve service at that church. Lots of other ideas that I have written down here. I don't want to take all this time here in this video, but pause the video. Cookie number 2, write down some childhood experiences and traditions that you're like, I want to make sure my kids have these experiences. They don't all have to be spiritual. The food's not spiritual. The Christmas lights, we go looking at Christmas lights. That's not necessarily spiritual, though. You can make it spiritual, believe me. But write down those things now. All right, cookie number 3, we're looking at new traditions. So this question gets to what do you want to add? Think about the traditions you want to bring to your family, whether it's experiences, traditional things you do, or maybe scripture you want to include in your family. When I think about us, one that comes right to mind, yes, I went as a child and looked at Christmas lights, and so did my wife with her family, but we turned it into a whole thing. We put Christmas lights inside of our van that light up, and we surprise the kids one night. We call it the Christmas Lights Express, and we pile into the van, and I come into the house ringing the bells. They don't know when that night's going to happen, but they all know when they hear the bells, get your stuff, we're getting in the van. There's usually hot cocoa and some candy involved. And we go driving around town, listening to Christmas music and looking at lights. We do this thing we call Third Christmas. And this started sort of by accident, but this gets back to some of the core values. Remember I mentioned being purposeful as one of our core values? So we do Christmas Eve with my side of the family. We do Christmas Day with her side of the family, but we don't try to go to both families in the same day. They live a couple hours apart. It would be crazy. It'd be tiring on all of us. So we want to be purposeful. We're going to spend a whole day here with this family. We're going to spend a whole day there with that family. Well, in the process of doing that, when our children were very young, we only had a couple of kids, we were getting over for Christmas breakfast. We opened up the stockings, went to Christmas breakfast, never got to the gifts under the tree. Well, we didn't get home till like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And by that point, our kids were all tiny and they were little, and it was past their bedtime. And so I said, well, we'll open the gifts tomorrow. And my wife looked and said, we can't do that. It's Christmas. Why not? They don't know. So we decided to do that. And the next day the kids woke up and we said, hey, look, we got all these gifts to the tree. And we opened up those gifts and we cooked a big breakfast and we laid around in our pajamas and watched movies and made little puzzles and played with all the toys. And it turned into this wonderful, purposeful, relaxing day. Technically, it's Boxing Day in some other countries. We called it Third Christmas. And it's now a brand new tradition that we've added to our family traditions. And that's how we do it in our family. We don't open gifts on Christmas Day. We open our stockings and then we go see other family. And then we open our gifts on Third Christmas. Our kids love it. They absolutely love it that way. So that's just a way where we've brought some new traditions to Christmas. Pause this video if you want. Write down a couple of new traditions you might want to start including. Or maybe you're like, hey, we have a couple of things we started. Write those down as well. Okay, it's time for our fourth cookie, our fourth question. Our fourth question is like button. Have you hit the like button on this video? Because if you haven't, you should do that right now. Hopefully these questions are helping you. Hit that like button on this video. And have you noticed we haven't talked about Santa yet? No, we're getting there. But we got to go through these other things. And as you are going through that, start looking at the traditions, question 2, the traditions that you have brought through from your childhood. And question 3, the traditions that you're starting. And ask yourself, does this line up with my answers to question 1, my core values that I want to pass on? If things aren't lining up, maybe you need to look at that activity, that tradition, and question if you want to really include it. If things are lining up, then you probably are feeling pretty good about how Christmas runs in your family. But again, if they don't match, that might be a clue to you that you need to make some changes in how Christmas runs in your family. All right, now on for the real question 4. All right, question number 4, cookie number 4, Jesus focus. And this one gets to how can the activities, the traditions in your family help point your kids to Jesus more and more and more? As you look at the different activities and traditions you've listed in questions 2 and 3, and the values that you identified in question 1, ask yourself, how do these point to Jesus? When I look at some of our activities, they clearly point right to Jesus. Going to Christmas Eve service points to Jesus. The music that we choose to play in our house is constantly Jesus focused. We do Advent candles in our house, Advent readings. We have a different Advent card every single day of the month. And you turn it around, there's a Bible verse and a little bit more of the Christmas story in there. That's pointing to Jesus. We'll memorize scripture during this time. Even just the manger that we set up, or the mangers that we set up around here. When we go on that Christmas Lights Express and we're looking at Christmas lights, I wish I could tell you, oh yes, no, we read the scripture that talks about Jesus being the light of the world and that we get in the car. That would be really cool and spiritual of me. I don't do that though. We just get in the car and go. Okay. But we're spending the time together as a family. So not every single tradition is going to be this clear-cut, gospel-focused tradition. Sometimes it's just hot cocoa. Sometimes it's just fun like that. But have I ever taken cookies and crumbled them up and talked about, had the kids try to reassemble the cookie and notice they can't do it, and then talked about sin and how sin wrecks our lives and we try to fix it ourselves and that doesn't work? Yeah, I've done that and actually made a YouTube video. I'll put the link down below that teaches you how to do that and a whole bunch of other ones like that. Yeah, we do that sometimes. But take a look at the traditions you've listed, the experiences you want your children to have, those core values, those first 3 questions, and ask yourselves, how many of these point my kids to Jesus? And if you're finding that not too many do, it's time to look at that 3rd question and ask yourself, what new experiences can I put in here? All right, cookie number 5 here. This is where Santa's coming in, Santa's role. Now that we've established all these other core values and these traditions we want to experience, where's Santa fitting in? Ask yourself, where does Santa fit into our family experience? And as we start talking about Santa, let's start from a place that says, everybody in that conversation, whether they are gung-ho, Santa's fun, I'm telling my kids Santa's real until they figure it out, to I'll never tell them about Santa, he's a distraction. Everybody in that conversation is trying to help children love Jesus. The vast majority of all those people have that as their main focus. So can we start by saying, this is really a secondary or tertiary issue in the faith. This is not a let's break fellowship with each other, we need to go to a different church type thing. This is a secondary or tertiary issue in the faith, and it really should be kept there. We should give it that much energy then as well. Let me help you parse that a little bit further. Maybe you come from different traditions, you and your spouse. I know my wife and I come from different traditions. I grew up, Santa was a real person, and my parents fed me that, and I loved it. It was fun, and then at some point I figured it out. I never harbored any anger at my parents. I never felt like they lied to me or anything like that. It was fun, and then it was fine. My wife came from a tradition where her family did not tell her that Santa was real. Santa was a fictional character, and they really didn't interact with Santa at all. And their gifts were from their parents, and they loved it. They had a great time, and they didn't lose out on the fun and magic of Christmas at all. Now, bring us together and those past histories and traditions together, and where do we go? My wife was not going to do Santa is real. And to be honest, I really didn't want to do Santa is real either. So we were kind of matched decently there already. I didn't feel like I was betraying my heritage by not doing Santa. But I also didn't feel comfortable telling my kids Santa was real. That's just where I was at. But I loved Santa. He's a great fictional character. And I'm a storyteller. And I love stories. So let me tell you how we sort of figured out another way. And to figure out that other way, we got to start looking at this guy. This guy's Nicholas. He's the inspiration behind Santa. I'm going to put him back on the shelf. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him. So Nicholas is a real person, and he really did live right around the same time as the Council of Nicaea. In fact, he actually went to the Council of Nicaea. There's a really fun story, we don't know if it's true, about him at the Council of Nicaea, where he punches a heretic. I love that story. Not so sure it's true, but it's really cool. Anyway, he's a real person in history. He really did love Jesus. His life story, you can go Google it. You can go to, I'll put a website down below that I love going to learn all about Nicholas. He has an awesome story of faith. And he is the basis for the guy next to him, Santa. That's where he comes from. And so for us, we decided, let's celebrate Nicholas and Santa. But Nicholas is real, and Santa's just a fictional character. Yes, we tell our kids, don't you dare spoil it for anybody. You're not going into some Sunday school class telling all the kids, Santa's not real, or anything like that. We're like, no, we're not spoiling this for other families. We've made that really clear to them. But they know the gifts are from mommy and daddy. But we'll watch movies that have Santa in it. And we will celebrate St. Nicholas Day, which is December 6th. And actually, December 6th, we put out our shoes, which is a tradition for St. Nicholas Day. And some of the traditions include putting little oranges and sweets in their shoes. And for us, we also put that Christmas ornament for this year in the shoes as well. The kids know it's us, but they all wake up on the morning on December 6th, really excited. We all run downstairs. We all know we're going to have an orange in our shoes. We all know we're going to have some candy in our shoes, but we don't know which ornament's going to be in our shoes. And we get really excited. We all open them up together and we hang them on the tree, and it's great. And it's a little way to honor that Christian heritage of Nicholas, and we tell his story. And we tell a bunch of his stories so they understand this is a man of faith who fought hard for the truth of Jesus Christ. And that's the real focus of this season. Santa, fun fantasy, but he's never as good as the real thing. So at the end of all this, no, I didn't come down with a you can't celebrate Santa or you better celebrate Santa. This is a personal choice that needs to line up with your answers to those 5 questions I gave you. So whether you want to include Santa as real or as fiction, focus a little bit more on Nicholas and his great story of faith, the one thing I want you to make sure you do every Christmas season is make sure this remains the main part of the story, that we remember the truth of Jesus Christ in this holiday season. That I love this scripture, for unto us is born this day in the city of David a child, which is Christ the Lord. Straight from scripture, truths about this amazing baby who was born because God decided he loved all of us and is in the business of creating a family. He wants a human family, and he wants you to be part of that family. And he loves you enough and wants you to be part of that family enough that he came down here with a rescue plan to rescue you too. That's the focus we want to have at Christmas. If you want to keep Jesus more the focus of the season, I want you to check out a couple of the videos I'm going to put right here at the end of this video. Merry Christmas, everyone.